Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Mandy and I do a lot of videos on my planning system as I am planning as a busy mom in this life. So I wanted to take you along with me to write down the steps that I use for my budgeting. And when I say my budgeting, like closing out the month and going into a new month. So today I'm just going to kind of write down my steps for you guys so you can see what all I do at the end of a month going into a new month with my budget. Okay, so the first thing that I have to do is I have to just make sure and check that all my expenses have been accounted for. I need to make sure that they're written down, balanced, and that they've come out of my bank account and applied to my category tracker. So just to kind of quickly show you how I do that. So here's my expense tracker, and I just basically, I know it's messy, and I shouldn't say I've tried to make this any prettier, but it's just what it is and how it works for me. But so what I do is I write the date, I write where I spent the money, the store or whatever, and then I use this as my categories. So these top areas, titles, are not do not pertain to this. So date, where I spent the money, what category it goes to, how much I spent, and the remaining balance in my account after spending that. So what I mean by the step of writing it down, just making sure that everything is written down here and that it matches what's in my bank account. And I don't mean matches as in it has to say exactly what the bank account says. We all know in your bank account it doesn't exactly say just Michael's, or if it does, it has a whole bunch of other coding or something there. The other thing is making sure I'm balanced and that it's come out of my bank account. So when I do that, it's never the same balance here because I write things down as I spend them. I don't just copy what's in my bank account. But when I say balanced, I say making sure that you take out the amount and that you balance it here. And when I have a check mark here, it shows me that I took it out of that it has come out of my bank account. So that's what these check marks are. And then my little dots are basically when I was checking my bank account that day, since I check every couple days a week, that's the last one that I was able to check off. So that way when I go back to my bank account, I find this purchase and then I start checking off other purchases from there. And then I also need to make sure it has been applied to my category tracker. Now over here is where I tell myself that I have done that. So for example, this Michael's seasonal purchase here, it came out of my bank account. I know that because I checked it off. And this check mark here tells me that I have taken it from my category as well. So because if you know any of my budgeting, I keep track of my categories. I make sure that I take it from the categories because we have money in these categories per our spreadsheet and my tracking. So and again, another messy sheet that works for me, but I find my seasonal box and I make sure that I have taken it out of that category, which had started the month with $68, and I took the $13 out. So that's why I have the check mark. So basically at the end of the month, I just go through and I make sure that everything has been checked off, showing me that it's come out of my bank, and then that everything has been checked off, showing me that I've applied it to my category tracking. Okay, so step number 2, I make sure to complete my monthly category tracker. Now that looks very similar to this one, which is my next month, but I'm going to show you the current month. So this is my current month, and what I have to end up doing is making sure that I have completed it. So I have completed it for February. If I spend any more money, I will go ahead and make some adjustments. But again, another very unpretty tracker of mine, but throughout the month, this is not filled in: the withdrawal, the deposit, and the ending balance. So I say complete monthly category tracker, meaning I want to total it up. So I fill in the totals, meaning if I was not able, with our income, if we were not able to apply any money to that category, I will put a little cross through it, or slash, I mean, through it, and I will complete the total. So for example, family birthdays, we have $455 in there for family birthdays. Usually the monthly deposit would be $75. But in our situation right now, we were not able to apply that. So the total remained at the rollover amount, which was $455. So we have not spent any money on birthdays this month, and we did not deposit anything in there. Usually I don't have much for depositing unless there's a refund. And our ending balance for February is $455. So that's what I mean by totaling up, adding up the spent or withdrawals, and ending balance. So basically completing this tracker is the second step for me. Okay, so the step number 3 for me will be to start a new month's category tracker. So what I'll do is I'll kind of take my white out, go through here, and make it, you know, very similar to this. The new one will have the rollover amount here. So the rollover amount is always the ending balance. It will have the rollover amount here. I changed this to the amount that we would budget or like to put into that category here. The category description goes here, and then this changes to the total amount. So sometimes I cannot figure out the totals. As you can see, I put a question mark here. Sometimes I cannot do the totals just because with the way our income is right now, it's a little bit unpredictable. So I have to go throughout the month to end up figuring out the totals. As you can see, we were not able to put quite a bit of money towards quite a bit of categories, but part of that decision was made because we may have already had money in there from previous months when our income was enough to put in there. So for example, for February, I was not able to put into charity and donations or family birthdays, but I felt okay with that because we had a rollover or a balance of the $50 or the $455. So that is basically the next step for me, is to start this next month's tracker, filling out rollover, the monthly deposit we would like to put in there. That will be decided upon throughout the month, the description or category names, and then if we are able to total. And then the withdrawal, deposit, and balance won't get done till the end of the month, just as I mentioned up here. Okay, so step number 4 is checking off on the annual sinking fund / category tracker what I was able to put money toward. So if you haven't seen these before, these are bill trackers from the Budget Mom. I use them to keep track of the things that we need to take out of our account monthly. So for example, we have our fixed bills, our variable bills, our subscriptions, and our sinking funds. And it pretty much allows me to keep track of when it comes out of the account. I put a check mark there and I can total it and see how much it is altogether. And for our subscriptions, as we like add on or take off throughout the month or the year, and then the sinking funds, when I put a check mark, I was able to apply money to those sinking funds that month. So I take the February sheet, and anything that we were able to apply our monthly to, like our family fun, gets checked off. Our home decor, where's that at? Gets checked off. And I like to have these in alphabetical order so that way I can easily find it. Kids clothes, let's just double check that we were able to put towards kids clothes, and yes, I put towards kids clothes. So basically this is my annual tracker, because these end up getting filed away in my budget Happyplanner, and they're easy to get to, but they're not right here in my monthly Happyplanner for easy access to check out. And that's why I love this system right here, because it allows me to just look back really quickly and see if we were able to apply any money to that category that month. So that would be the next step, is just checking it off on that tracker. Okay, step 5 is checking all other annual trackers and totaling the month. So as you saw, I checked it off on the sinking fund tracker and I totaled it. That total is something I'm going to need in a few more steps, and so is it when I check the other trackers. So for example, even though it's the same, I'm keeping track of the totals, because we may end up having to get rid of or adding on some subscriptions throughout the year. So I basically check them off as they come out of my account. I make sure of that at the end of the month, and then I write the total. So step number 6 for me is to calculate our budgeted versus our annual money on our monthly budget sheet. So those totals that I had made on our annual trackers come into play here. I use this from the Budget Mom, and this is my January one. So basically, I have my budgeted amounts here that I try to figure out in the beginning of the month, and then our actual amounts here. So we just basically calculate those out and compare our income with our actuals. And that way it lets me know if we are spending over and if I need to make any adjustments or anything like that. So that is step number 6 for me, is calculating that and just comparing. And I allow myself some time to really do this step and look into it, because sometimes the amounts are different. Sometimes I need to be careful in my calculations with the calculator and so on. So that is a definite, not the quickest step. So if you do any of these steps, just give yourself some time for that step. Kind of mentioned already, but you would basically, so you would start a new one for the next month, and you would fill out your budgeted amounts. That would be step number 7 for me. And I'm running out of room, so I'm going to go ahead and write step number 8 up here. Okay, and finally for me, at the end of the month or beginning of the new month, I do number 8 here, after the new month has begun. So that's key here, is to make sure that you do this step after the new month has begun. You've completely closed out. This is like the final step for me to close out my previous month's budget, is I wait till after the new month has begun and I calculate and log my yearly spending overview. So this is a new process for me this year, but definitely something I'm glad I'm doing. The Budget Mom has these. She has these sheets here called Yearly Spending Overview, and what I have done is I have created them for my bills, fixed and variables, my sinking funds, my subscriptions. I did not do one for savings, but I think I'm going to go ahead and start that even though I'm not spending the savings, I'm sure there will be some time that I may have to, and I want to make sure that I can log it. And having one extra little piece of paper in here isn't going to be that big of a deal. This is an annual tracker. Yes, you might be doing some repetitive amount, you know, some you might be repeating some of this, but I like adding this in to compare the numbers side by side a lot easier. So again, I said that these match those bill trackers there. So my fixed and variable are on the same page, and there's not, I have lots of categories, even though we don't use them every month. I had to make 2 copies for my category, and I went ahead and just used the bottom of the other one for subscriptions. So that is nice, because especially for my sinking funds, because as I mentioned, these sheets go and get filed. This one, the tracker for me, is just tracking what we put money toward. This one actually tracks the spending, and it shows for every month. So I'm really excited to be able to see how much I spent on childcare in January compared to February, compared to March and April and all of that. And if you're needing to figure out how to spend less money, something like this is going to be really helpful. I know you may want to know that information now. So you might be thinking, I'm not going to do that. I need to know that information now. I would highly recommend doing something like this, so that way next year when you're in a similar boat and you're wondering where all your money went for the whole year, you can see the patterns that you are that you and your family are spending money in. So for example, I don't spend money on haircuts anymore, but I do have it as a category just in case. And because we were spending so much money on haircuts, I was able to learn how to cut my kids' hair, at least for now, and my husband's, and we have saved a lot of money there. Had I been keeping track, I would have been able to show you guys how much money went towards haircuts. Or if you're finding that your grocery bill is super, super high, doing something like this can show you the patterns. Which months do you spend more money on groceries in, or maybe is it every couple months because you're having to restock up on some things, and maybe the other months you can try to spend a little bit less. Just stuff like that. I think it's really helpful to see your money in an annual view, and I just keep those together with each month's monthly budget sheet, just like I keep all of these together as well. Okay, you guys, so there you have it. Again, it's not super pretty. I'm sorry that it's not pretty, but if you need a screenshot of this, here you go. This is how these are the steps, I should say, that I take to close out a budget and start a new budget. I think having these steps as my guide and my checklist helps me to not get overwhelmed at the end of the month, allow myself enough time to budget correctly so I'm not wondering where the heck I'm at in the middle of the next month, and just allows me to make sure that I am making progress with all of the different tracker sheets that I do have that I know are helpful for me and my family in budgeting and making sure that we have enough money for things. Because, whether you have more money than you need or just enough or not enough, budgeting takes some time, and you are always able to make better choices if you know how much money you have and where it's going. I'm sorry if this video ended up longer than I thought. I really was just gonna write all these out and then decided to show you guys some things at the same time. So let me know if that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you like budgeting videos, if you could hit the like button, that would be so helpful. And I just thank you guys for coming and supporting the channel as well. I will see you guys for the next video. Thank you guys and have an awesome day.